Your girl Kendell, and welcome to Conversations with me, Kendell. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know we're starting a little late today, so those of you that have been patient, I kindly thank you. So tell everyone we're on now to watch live. Go to radioonfire.com. Okay, so I want to thank you guys for joining me this evening, and I want to thank you for all your birthday wishes. I don't know if I look a year older, but my birthday was Wednesday. I turned 44, so I'm proud of that. God is good. Thank you so much. So I'm proud of that. People always say, well, why do you tell your age? Because I'm thankful. A lot of people don't make it to 44. So I always say a million didn't make it, but I was one of the ones who did. So I'm very grateful and very thankful. I hope you guys had an amazing week. I know I did. Like I said, it was my birthday week. Did you have an amazing week?
I sure did.
Okay.
I made it through.
All right. Absolutely. All right. So today's topic created a little buzz on social network, Facebook this week. When I said we were going to be talking about child support, a lot of people were saying, oh, I need to listen. I need to forward this. I need to text this. I need to, put this online. So the title of today's show is Child Support, the child support system. Is it fair? So today's guest is Keino Stephenson. He is the founder of weareparents.org, and he is going to talk all about child support.
Absolutely.
Right? And he has his attorney here with him, too, just in case you have any additional legal questions. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, Keino, what's going on?
Nothing much. Just looking forward to the opportunity. And I want to thank you, first and foremost, for the opportunity to be able to share with people about the child support system.
Thank you. So, weareparents.org is your organization.
Yes, ma'am.
How did you start that, and why did you start that?
Well, I started weareparents.org. I was working in the Baltimore City Office of Child Support Enforcement as the team lead for the walk-in unit. And I had a client come into the office one day, and he received a letter for a license suspension due to not paying child support. And he asked me, well, first he told me that he hasn't seen his child in approximately 5 years.
Wow.
And he said, I haven't seen my son in 5 years. I want to see my son. Can you help me with that?
And that wasn't abnormal. You probably heard, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are situations, a variety of situations where, children may not even see their fathers at all. Mm-hmm. So, more importantly, he asked me, okay, how can I see my child? Because he's thinking he's going to the quote-unquote child support office. But unfortunately,
to see his child.
Well, not to see his child, but I guess the natural assumption is if you're going to the child support office, in some way, shape, or form, they may be able to assist you with something more than just the monetary aspect of child support. Right. So unfortunately, I had to tell him we don't handle custody or visitation. You have to go to the courthouse for that. We only essentially handle the money. Mm-hmm. And
that's what you were saying when you were working for who? I just want to make it clear.
I was working for the Baltimore City Office of Child Support Enforcement.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to make that clear.
So that's when it kind of clicked to me, like, wait a second. We have a relationship with the custodial parent, which a lot of times is the mother. We have a relationship with the non-custodial parent, which a lot of times is the father. Why aren't we addressing the visitation aspect of time sharing and things of that nature, and why are we just focusing on the monetary aspect?
Yeah, because most people just think about as long as I get my child support check or as long as they pay financially, they don't think about the emotional state of the child or the child's well-being by seeing that other parent or having a relationship with that other parent.
And time sharing is essential, and we shouldn't have a system that's designed to just focus on the monetary aspect. But if you want to actually see your child, you have to actually petition the court to see your child.
If you're on child support or just if you're not the custodial parent?
No, if you're a father, if you have a child out of wedlock and you're not with the mother and you want to see your child and you don't have a relationship with the mother of that child and you want some type of legal guarantee that you can see the child, and this is all information online. I'm not giving any legal information. The process is you have to go to your family court clerk for whatever jurisdiction you live in, and you have to petition the court to be able to see your child for $135.
Okay, so you saw a need when people were coming into the Baltimore City Child Support Office. You saw a need like, hey, we're just talking about money here. We're talking about your child support payments or but we're not facilitating the relationships with the parent and the child.
Absolutely. We're not focusing on the actual relationship.
Okay. So you had a bright idea to start
So I said
We Are
this
Parents.
simply is not right.
Okay.
If anything, if we have the mother of the child and the father of the child, if we have an established relationship with them and we know where they are, why aren't we trying to foster and facilitate some type of visitation agreement so that child can have both of his parents in his life?
Right, and I think that makes sense. So when you start, okay, so what I wanted to ask you, as far as I get, that's why you started it. Have you ever experienced the other side of child support? Was it something that was pulling at your heart for a personal reason, without spilling all your business, but just...
Well, I am a single father of
Okay.
2 children. I have a son who's about to turn 20, and I
Okay.
also have an 8-year-old.
Okay.
Really wasn't, and I have good
Had
relationships
a
with
single
both of
father here last week too. Shout
Okay,
out to all the
great.
single dads.
Absolutely. Father's Day. Happy Father's Day,
Yeah.
everyone.
Oh yeah. Happy Father's Day.
So I have a good relationship with both of my son's mothers, but it just
Okay.
seemed like these are certain things that were instilled in me, which is why I may tend to have or try to maintain a cordial relationship.
With the mothers.
Yeah, with the mothers of my children, but there are scenarios where it's not that easy for some men.
Right, and I think that's very important, guys, or even women. If you have a child by someone that you're not married to, or you're no longer with, I think it's very important to have a relationship with the parent of your child. I think even if you get into another relationship, if that person that you're in a relationship with can't understand that you have a relationship with the child's mother, then that's a problem. Because I think it's very important for a child to at least be able to have both of their parents, or access to both of their parents.
You're absolutely right.
So, I think that's very good. So do you find that the child support system is hard on fathers opposed to mothers, or do you think the fathers get a bad rap?
Well, all really depends on the individual father themselves and the jurisdiction that you're actually talking about. All child support jurisdictions are run differently. Okay. Some are run by private organizations,
okay.
as well as the state government facilitates some of the offices. But quite frankly, it's really up to the individual themselves. I mean, a lot of times you hear, the child support system's against men. And
a lot of men, I know a lot of you feel that way. I know you do, because a lot of people were tweeting me and Facebooking me, and so a lot of men do feel like men get a bad rap. But you're saying that's not true?
Well, I'm not saying that that's not necessarily true, but a lot of times it's really about self-empowerment. Like,
okay.
People will only allow
I like
you to
that
do,
word.
People will only allow you to do what you allow them to do.
Right.
So if you have your ducks in a row, and for instance, if you decide, like I said, all this information is available online, if you decide to petition the court for joint custody of your child, then that's something that's well within your right and within your power.
Right.
So a lot of times it's not necessarily the quote-unquote system.
Right.
It's just, if you let anything linger, then it's just going to get worse.
I can't agree with you more. I hear a lot of fathers say, "Oh, she won't let me see my child," or "I can't see my child." Even fathers, it's a myth that it's just deadbeat men out there. There are a lot of deadbeat women out there that aren't taking care of their children, or not even trying to foster a relationship. So, guys, it is up to you too. If we're talking about the guys, you can't sit back and say, "Oh, well, the my child's mother or my baby's mother is not allowing me to see my child." You have access to that child too. What are you doing to try to facilitate a relationship? What are you doing to try to have some type of legal rights? And the father or the absent parent has to step up to the plate too. Absolutely. And not just wait for child support to kick in, or until you get a notice saying that you got to take care of your child.
And it's also a misconception that there are men out there, or non-custodial parents, mm-hmm. which the term used to be absent parents, but
right.
that was termed not to be politically correct. Mm-hmm. There's also
a
lot of men out there that...
So you're trying to say I wasn't politically correct when I said absent parent?
Oh, no, no, really,
teasing.
To our earlier point, I'm just trying to explain the evolution of the child support
right.
system.
Okay.
How it was automatically deemed that the man was absent.
Right.
So... but really, more importantly, I currently have 3 clients that are trying to get custody of their children. 3 men that are trying to get custody of their children. So a lot of times it's just misconception that, oh, the child lives with the mom, and the dad doesn't care, he just pays child support.
I agree.
But there are men out there that want custody of their children, whether it be physical or legal.
I mean, I agree with that, and not just knowing you, that you're a father and you love your children. I know so many single fathers out there. Like I know a lot that have sole custody of their children, and they're darn good parents. At my other job, my full-time job, I work with clients all the time. And I was so surprised, and I shouldn't have been surprised. A lot of people are, but I was so surprised how many women paid child support. How many women left their home, left their family, and paying child support to the fathers. Do you see that a lot?
I think the last statistic I had was approximately 2 years ago, but approximately between 10 to 12% of single parent households are facilitated by men. And they're actually men that have custody of their children.
What did you say the percentage was?
Approximately 10 to 12%.
Wow.
And
that's probably more than most people think.
Is maybe a little off because it's about 2 years old, but that's the last estimate that I have.
It's probably higher now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Absolutely.
And people don't even think that. It's probably going to continue to grow as the years progress. And I'm glad. Thank you for those statistics. And that's what I was going to ask you next. Do you see a lot, like with your clients, for instance, your pipeline? Do you see a lot of women that are, or a lot of men that are hiring you for the woman to pay child support?
Well, a few, not really. I wouldn't say a lot. The majority of the issues that we deal with now are modifications, and it works both ways. It could be a modification
of the payment.
Modification of the child support payment.
Okay.
It could be that the woman thinks that she should be getting more, or the man thinks that he should be paying less. So a lot of times we see cases like that, but primarily it's cases that deal with custody or some type of visitation issue. And I just want to clarify, we're not a law firm. What we do is we just guide the clients through the family court forms that are available on the website, and we assist them with filing those forms.
Because some people need help with the forms.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people, because sometimes if you're not familiar with that, or you're not savvy enough, or you may not really comprehend what you're reading, you want somebody there to kind of guide you through.
Yeah,
and it's just
experienced child support professional.
Right. So because you worked for Baltimore City, so you know the forms.
Yep, absolutely.
And some people, the forms might as well be in Chinese. They don't get it. They don't understand. And to fill out the forms correctly, that's half the battle on trying to get what you need accomplished, right?
Yeah, and an issue with service, if you try to serve the person yourself, that may be an issue, and that's a legal issue, but there's all types of different concerns that you may run into.
Okay. As I was doing my, let me see. Because the misconception is about women never paying. And the reason why I'm bringing that up, because of just my experience with deadbeat mothers. Do they still use that term?
Not too familiar with the term. Well, really, quite frankly,
okay.
I don't really appreciate the term deadbeat at all.
Right.
Because it's a disparaging term to begin with.
It is. But. You're absolutely right. And people say that. And I had a question about, so I just wanted to read some statistics here.
Sure.
Let's see which one I want to go with first. It's just a statistics from the Census Bureau. Which parents are awarded child support? This is from 2011. 53.4% of women are awarded child support, and 28.8% of men. This is according to, so marital status with the children. Divorced parents that are awarded custody is about 55.9%, married 54.4%, separated 44.3%, and never been married 41%. That sound about right to you? Or
not too familiar with those actual statistics.
Okay.
And this isn't a legal opinion, but this is just a personal opinion. I would say a lot of times that a judge won't really give a man custody unless there's some type of extenuating circumstance.
That's what I hear.
Generally, so
with the mother.
Yeah, with the mother.
Because a lot of times they don't want to take the child away from the mother. So typically the mother has to kind of relinquish.
Either relinquish or some type of extenuating circumstance, or if they have a high-powered attorney.
Okay, right. Like that was a case with Ludacris. I don't know if you're familiar with that case. I was reading online about that. Like he got custody of his daughter, and the mother is fighting now with and she's saying that she doesn't have a high-powered attorney. She doesn't have an attorney that, him with money he has. So basically she lost her child, and she's saying she lost her child due to money. Do you find that, because a lot of statistics that I was reading too, they were talking about poverty and how a lot of people impoverished are the ones that are, and I want to make sure I get this correct. I don't want to, I may get back to that one when I find that one. But I was just reading, they were saying that a lot of child support cases are with impoverished parents, but I was reading, I was like, I don't agree with that. Do you agree with that?
Well, again, it kind of flirts to the realm of legality, but there is a state statute, I believe, where they can make a child responsible for their impoverished parents, and that is part of the family court statutes, I believe. But again, that's legalese.
Right. And you don't want to touch that. I don't blame you. I don't want to touch it either. As he said earlier, neither one of us are attorneys. So what about child support, like informal child support? Because I know a lot of times now I'm hearing that people are paying their child support through PayPal, through just going to the cash, or going to the mother or the father's bank and depositing money. Do you see a lot of people like that? Because there are a lot of informal ways to pay child support.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't necessarily have to deal with the child support office.
Right.
For instance, me personally, for my 2 children, I don't deal with the child support office.
Right.
I pay the mothers directly. So, you don't have to deal directly with the child support office unless you're applying for some type of state facilitated benefits. Then you have to cooperate with the child support office. And there are companies out there such as Support Pay. It's a company based out of California. Mm-hmm. It's I believe it was started by a divorced mother, and she wanted a way to facilitate taking care of a child and payments and court orders and everything to that effect without the need of dealing with the child support office.
And I hear a lot of people feel that way. My personal opinion is I don't feel that it's always necessary to go to the child support office to have somebody tell you how much to pay for your child. I think that 2 adults should be able, in the real world, in a happy world with cupcakes and sunshine and moonlight, that a parent should just automatically take care of their child. That's what I believe. So I've never been through this child support system also. But unfortunately, we have a child support system for a reason. A lot of people have to be, is forced a strong word to say, have to be forced to pay child support.
Well, yes, at the end of the day, it is pretty messed up that we have to have a state institution responsible for making people
responsible for their own children.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that people should just take care of their children, men and women alone. But you wouldn't be in business, or child support wouldn't be in business if everyone, did that. Yeah, unfortunately,
you're absolutely right.
Unfortunately, so also just want to give some more statistics. Child support represented 62.6% of average income for custodial parents or below poverty. That's what I was trying to say earlier, who receive child support. And then also there's non-cash child support, right?
Well, that's generally not recognized by the child support office or by a court order, because usually they only recognize monetary payments. So
what about when I hear people say, I'm keeping the receipts, I'm taking the receipts to court, I take care of my child? I deal with people on the regular basis and deal with income and deal with everybody's life like right in front of me. So I come across a lot of child support orders, and I know a lot of women say, I have the order, but he doesn't pay. I know a lot of people out there may have a child support order, but they're still not receiving any child support. The order is in place. What happens in that case when you have an order and it's not fulfilled, the agreement is not met?
Unfortunately, it's just like any other situation. The client or that custodial parent that stays on their child support office is kind of like the whole squeaky wheel syndrome, where if you're constantly contacting your enforcement worker, you're essentially making them enforce your case.
Okay.
So, but at the end of the day, I also tell clients all the time, you are the best enforcement worker you will ever have, because you will have more information about that other parent than anyone else.
Because you have to know where they live, you have to know, so they can serve them,
or even
right?
if you heard
or
on the street, oh yeah, I heard
number.
he got a new job at Walmart. You
Right.
contact your child support office and let them know that, yeah, I think he's working at Walmart.
Right.
They're
So-
going to send an employment verification to that Walmart.
So I know there's a lot of private eyes, inch-high private eyes and bootleg private eyes that they find that out. They find out where he worked, where he lived, or where she worked or where she lived. And then if you give the child support office that information, they're able to enforce it. They're able to take your information that you give and work it in the case?
Absolutely. And a new tool that a lot of child support jurisdictions are using is the use of social media like Facebook to be able to locate individuals as well.
Okay. So, and I mean, a lot of people are doing a lot with social media and just finding people in general. So I guess it does make sense. So if you owe child support out there and you have a
your
Facebook page,
account can tell you a lot about
then you might get got. You know what I mean? You might be getting a call soon because they saw you on Facebook. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I also hear, and do you hear this? I'm just thinking about all the things that I hear, like with clients and just people in general, that some people quit their job so they don't have to pay child support. I know you guys have heard that before.
And actually, again, legalese, that's actually a crime. That's child impoverishment.
Wow. That's child impoverishment. And I mean, I hope you guys hear that, because dealing with people and dealing with, finances and dealing with child support on a totally different level, just on income based, looking at household income. And a lot of times child support is a factor. Some of them will say, well, he quits his job or she quits her job just so they don't have to pay child support, which is crazy to me, because this is your child. You're really going to, I think a lot of times the non-custodial parent thinks they're punishing the custodial parent by not paying child support.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And this is one of the things that a lot of non-custodial parents that owe child support don't realize. And Mr. Hamlin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe child support is the only civil debt where you can actually be incarcerated.
That sounds right.
The attorney said it sounds right. Okay. But I know if you don't pay your child support, there are other penalties, like you can't get a passport.
Passport denial if you owe more than $2,500.
License over. Say that again.
If you owe more than $2,500, you can't get a passport. Passport denial.
If you owe more than $2,500 in arrears.
Yes, in arrears.
Then you can't get a passport. And also, if you don't pay, you get your license suspended, right?
Every 30 days, if the child support system doesn't see that full payment was met, an automatic notice will be sent to you from MVA threatening to suspend your license. Okay.
And I know Motor Vehicle Association or Administration, I'm sorry, because I know some parts of the world is the DMV. Where I grew up in Jersey is the DMV. And you too, right?
Yep, DMV.
Because where are you from?
New Jersey.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hey, shout out to Jersey. South Jersey in the house. I just had to say that. Okay, so how does, for the people that don't know or the people that are trying to receive child support from the non-custodial parent, how is the amount determined? Because some people say, oh, I get too little, or like you said earlier, some people think that they deserve more, and some people think they're paying too much. So for the people that don't know, how is that determined?
Well, they just changed the guideline within the past 2 years, but Maryland uses something called the income share model.
Okay.
And what that essentially is, it assumes what kind of monetary contribution would both parents be giving this child if they lived in an intact household. And that's why they call it the income shares model.
Oh, and I like an intact household. So what is an intact household? I'm sure people
like
can
for
figure
instance,
it out, but I just want to.
if the mother and the father lived in a household with that child, what kind of monetary contribution would they be providing for that child
because
if they live together.
At that point, it would be household income.
Yeah.
And a lot of things are based on household income. So you're still taking the two incomes together, except one is in one address and one is in another. Is that how it is?
Well, it's really just in theory that they call it the income share model. But basically, like, the rough estimate, and this is a very rough estimate, this isn't a guideline amount, generally approximately 30% of a non-custodial parent's income will potentially go toward child support, depending on other variables like is he in an intact marriage? Does he have another household he's taking care of? Or does he have another child support case?
So that's taken in consideration. So if a person has a child with person A over here, but then he marries or she marries person B over here, they're going to see what they're putting out at person B's house first in their new family.
Well, the only two things that are taken in consideration is if you're actually married to this other person, and if you have another child support case in the system.
So is the person, you owe child support, okay? Let's just say you owe child support. You marry Susie Q over here, but you have a baby by Lil Mama over here, okay? Is Susie Q responsible for your child support if you marry her?
No, they don't factor the spouse's income.
Okay. So that is a misconception, guys. I know a lot of people think if you get married to someone and they owe child support or they have a open child support case, that the income will be included in that. So that's not true, because I've heard that before,
that is
too.
not true. And if there is an issue where another enforcement tool that's often used is tax intercept. State and federal tax intercept.
Will they take the new spouse's taxes too, or just
what happens is
if you file jointly?
Yeah, if you file jointly, the spouse can file or refile under I believe it's called injured spouse, and then that won't be factored into that amount.
So the injured spouse means that.
Well, for instance, let's say you have a husband and wife, and they file taxes together. They were supposed to get $5,000 back, but that $5,000 went toward the non-custodial parent, support. Her husband's arrears.
Okay.
What she can do is they can refile, and it's called injured spouse.
Okay.
And then whatever money is supposed to go to her based on her wages will go to her, and they would only take his portion, which will actually go to his child support. Yeah. Okay,
so that's news. I know a lot of people probably are wondering that. So that's good news. I know we talked about this. I just want to go back real quick. You said non-cash child support is not considered, because I know I had a question about, like, people say, well, I buy clothes. I buy all the school clothes, the summer clothes. I buy diapers. I buy baby food. I buy, even her birthdays was in one of these articles. So let me just read what non-cash support is. At least one type of non-support, such as gifts or coverages of expenses, was received from the non-custodial parent by 60% of all custodial parents on behalf of their children. The proportion of custodial mothers receiving non-support was about 5%. And was lower than that with the custodial fathers, which was, 58%, which for the fathers it was 70%. Custodial parents with a child support agreement or award were more likely than those without awards to receive non-cash support. So you're saying, like, that's not even really legal. Like, somebody can't go to court and say, here are my receipts. I buy all their clothes. I buy I buy the food in the house. I make sure they're taken care of. Birthday parties, I pay for them. So what if a non-custodial parent goes into a court with all of that? It doesn't matter?
Well, just like anything else, regardless of whether you're dealing with civil, criminal, or whatever, at the end of the day, it's up to that judge in that particular jurisdiction.
Okay.
So generally, in the state of Maryland, from my experience, they don't really factor in non-cash support.
Okay.
Depending on the master or the judge, they may, if the non-custodial parent comes in with all these receipts, he could just decide, okay, well, I'm going to knock down the arrears just based on this information. But generally, it's not factored in at all.
Okay, so it's case-by-case basis, maybe state-by-state, and just whoever
I wouldn't even say that because there's really no way to calculate it. You'll be going back to court every month, and turn in a receipt.
Because it's a different amount every month.
Versus the child support system, it's a monetary amount that's easily calculated.
Okay. And and that's good for you guys to know, because I know personally, I know someone that did that. And I know, like, at one point, I know a guy, an old friend of mine for many years, was trying to get custody of his child. And he was paying, he was doing everything, like, for that child. But then the mother was saying that he wasn't doing anything. So if it's not on the books, in a sense, there's no way to really prove that. So he said that he kept all of his receipts in a shoebox and took them to court and had everything. And they went by that. And like you said, it is case by case, but typically it's basis, not. Okay.
If you have an attorney, I'm sure that they'll be more inclined to.
Okay. So do you encourage people to seek child support if they're not receiving it? Well, like if you don't have an order or anything like that, you're a struggling single parent, and you don't have child support. Some people say, I don't want to be bothered. I don't feel like going through the hassle. What do you say to that?
I've talked to countless young ladies who pretty much say, I don't want to deal with the child support system. Right. I shouldn't have to make him take care of his child.
Right.
And with all due respect, that's just selfish, because you're thinking about yourself and your own emotions, and you're not thinking about how much more you can actually do if you receive this support.
That's very true. That's very, very true. So ladies and men out there, I know a lot of people, I know I didn't even want to go through child support, and I never have. And I know even when I was getting it, it was still just a personal agreement. And I know if I ever went to child support, I would have had a whole lot more. You know what I mean? It wouldn't have been some days where I was like, ooh, money, or months that money was tight. But I think I look at it like this, I guess, and I think about even my situation. Like, I want somebody to take care of their child because that's their child. I don't want to impoverish someone else or make someone else struggle, like if they moved on and have another family. So where do you find where you get yours and then that person is not? Because I see some people that like pay so much child support. One of my customers, they paid it was like $2,000 a month. So is that? Well,
that must mean that he was making substantial
a lot.
Money.
Yeah. Because how often do they reevaluate? Because like, what if do they like include overtime and things like that? Because people want to know, because a lot of people like are nurses or in the medical field or police officers or correctional officers, IT, a lot of people get consistent overtime. So is that factored in?
And I'm actually glad you used that word. It has to be consistent.
Okay.
You have to show that it's consistent overtime, or the other party has to show that he generally works overtime, so that should be factored into the child support guideline.
Because you can't go in there and say, oh, I don't work overtime, and then you have 20 pay stubs in front of you, and they all say overtime, 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 overtime.
Exactly.
Because people do try to do that. So is there, like, say, for instance, somebody worked overtime for like 6 months, and then they didn't anymore. Can they go and get their case reevaluated maybe?
Again, it's still subjective up to that judge or that hearing officer. But to your earlier point, you can have your case reviewed for a modification or review and adjustment every 3 years.
Oh, okay. So you can't. So you have to wait. Like you have to wait it out.
Well, it's federally every 3 years. However, if you can prove that there's been a substantial change in income for either party, then you can petition the court, and then they can grant you a hearing based on that information.
Okay. So what do you find that, and I know you heard this before, do you find that the child support system is tough on black men?
I wouldn't say
tougher?
It's funny you said that. I had a blog post that I actually put on Twitter that I was sharing with people, and Reginald Hudlin, who's the director of Boys in the Hood, he took great offense to
Not Boys in the Hood, because that's John Singleton.
Well, he was one of the directors, or he
What's
did
the one? Menace to Society. He did Menace to Society.
I know it's the Hudlin brothers.
Yeah, he did Menace to Society.
And he just really started blasting me because I used the term black men.
So African American, you should have said?
Well, no, he just said men in general. You shouldn't have just singled out black men. And to be quite frank, I just use that term just to get people's attention.
So what did you say? What was the post?
I believe it was a blog post in reference to, does the child support system have to make black men be accountable to their children?
Okay. So he wasn't. He said He said you should have just said.
Yeah, I should have
all
just.
men.
I should have just.
But
said
you
men.
wanted to create some kind of. He wouldn't have.
Yeah,
he wouldn't have
absolutely.
responded to your tweet if you would have said.
He wouldn't have looked at
right.
it. He wouldn't have looked at it.
Right.
Then he became a follower. So.
Right.
You know, it
right.
was done strategically for a reason.
Right. Exactly. But do you feel like that, or you just wrote that?
Unfortunately, at times I do. I do.
Yeah.
And another thing that we have to think about, a lot of times when a woman, generally a woman, is on the fence about, I don't want to hold him accountable, I don't want to take him to the child support office. But if you take him to the child support office, men that are financially invested in their children are more likely to be in their children's lives than men who have completely no contact, no financial investment, no nothing with their children.
And that's a good point. I hear a lot of parents say this. When I was reading this today, I was like, oh, I've heard this a million times. Let's see. My papers fell outside, so everything was uneven. I'll try to remember it if I can. Okay. So I was reading this, and I've heard a lot of this. It says why parents don't have a legal child support agreement in place. So tell me if all of these sound familiar. I'm sure they will. Child's other parent provides when they can or what they can. Child's other parent couldn't afford to pay. But I have a problem with that because a custodial parent can't say, I can't afford to pay. I can't feed my child today.
I used to tell clients in the walk-in unit that all the time.
Right.
How do you take care of yourself? How
right.
did you eat last night?
Exactly. So it's like, I think that custodial parent doesn't have the opportunity to say, oh, I can't do it this week. Oh, I can't feed you today. Like, you know
You're
what I mean?
absolutely right.
But then you have, okay, so then another was didn't feel the need to have a legal agreement. And you said something about that earlier. Didn't want the child's other parent to pay. So I think it's a lot behind that if you don't want the other child to pay, which leads me to the next thing. It says didn't want the child to have contact with the other parent. So a lot of times they don't want to wake the savage beast in a sense. So I think some people go without child support because they don't want that child to have contact with the other parent. Do you find that could be true?
Unfortunately, yes. And again, they're making that selfish decision.
Right. And that is selfish. But if the other parent is not good in the child's life, or if a bad influence, you know what I mean? So maybe it's because of protecting the child. I guess some parents think that they're protecting the child.
It's funny, I just happened to run across, again, this is just the annotated code, just statute, anyone has access to it, where the only time where they'll relinquish custody of a child from their parent is if the parent's charged with first-degree murder or another crime, I believe.
That's it?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So, and this is one that you were saying, so you got to play private eye, people, because this is one unable to locate the parent. A lot of people can't file a child support claim because they don't know what the mother or father is, or they hadn't been with them in years, or they've moved around or moved jobs.
Yeah, and it could be erroneous as well. And what I mean by that is a lot of times in order for custodial parents to apply for benefits, they have to open up a child support case. And a lot of times they don't want to list the real father because they don't want to hold him accountable for having to pay the state back when they receive benefits.
So why do you think that? Why do you think that is?
It very well could be. I mean, I hate to always use ethnicity, and you asked me that question earlier.
Hey, I mean, this is the world we're living in.
No, I just think that at times for black men, there's that baby boy syndrome where we just don't have to hold our black men accountable.
So you're thinking, oh, well, he's trying, he's doing well, I don't want to get him in trouble. It's the same way domestic violence. The man beats you senseless, and then you don't want to press charges.
Yeah,
it's the same type of that protection, like you said, that baby boy, you want to kind of coddle the person. Meanwhile, the custodial parent is struggling.
And then you're asking him why he's living in your house when he's 20 years old. So.
Child, please. So the child stays with the other parent part of the time. So some people, this is still part of why parents don't have a legal support agreement in place. So they say that the child, well, since the parent stays with you, half the time and me, then we can take care of the child half the time over there and half the time there. What do you think about that?
I mean, that's legitimate. I had that arrangement with my youngest son's mother, where when we were living in close proximity, he stayed with her 1 week and me 1 week, and so on and so forth. So it just kind of equaled out. We split the daycare responsibilities.
And I bet you see this before. And I had a client that kind of worked in child support too, and I heard paternity is not established. So isn't it true that if you file for child support that they will do a free DNA? Because I heard that too. Is that true?
Well, they will do. Well, it won't be free.
Okay.
Somebody will have to pay for it.
And probably that non-custodial parent?
So if the non-custodial parent objects to paternity and then it's determined that he is the father, then he's going to have to pay for it, and vice versa. If the mother says this man's the father of my child and he's not, then she has to pay for it.
Oh, wow. So if you say you do it that's like a Maury situation, like Maury Povich situation. So people think, I swear that's the father. I know for sure it's the father.
Yeah,
and they go do the test and it's not the father. So then you brought somebody there. So then now the mother or the mother has to pay.
Yeah, if they conduct a DNA test on that individual and he's not, then she has to pay, yes.
Okay. And the last one is the child was too old for child support. What's the statute of limitations? Like, can you get, if you apply for a child that's 17, how long can they get child support?
The current statute of limitations is it has to be 6 months before their 18th birthday.
So if you apply for child support, let's just say when the child is 17 and a half, okay, do you get back child support or do you just get it for 6 months?
Again, it's up to the determination of that judge. It's still somewhat subjective because a judge can just be like, why are you even applying? And he can pretty much decide to close it out, or he can try to retroactively put the non-custodial parent in arrears if he so chooses.
So he can do arrears, like say to when the child was like 2?
Even but there has to be some.
Even if they didn't have an order?
Again, I don't know because it's up to the judge.
Yeah.
But I'm sure somebody's going to ask the question, why'd you wait so long?
Right.
And everything to that effect.
Right, especially if the child's father or mother, they've been gone since they were 1 year old.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then now at 17, they're like, it's the principle of it. I need to get them through, the college.
Yeah,
that senior
right.
year is expensive. I know with my daughter, that senior year, I remember that.
Yeah, it does get expensive. Rings, proms, and everything.
Right, all of that good stuff, all the limos and all that stuff for proms and graduations and college application and, room and board, all of that stuff.
You're
so
right.
I think some people think like that, like when they were younger, they were easier. Now, hey, I might need a little help. But then, is that fair to the other parent?
It's all
and
in
why
the eye
haven't
of the
you been
beholder.
paying at the whole time?
Or what were the circumstances?
Right.
Why wasn't he reaching out trying to contribute on his own?
Right. And that's the problem, I guess, that I have. Like, if you have a child, and I said this earlier, and I'm going to get on my soapbox one more time. But if you have a child and you know that this child is yours, you know this child is walking around, you know this child is not walking around naked, so you need some clothes on this child, you need to feed this child, you need to educate this child. I think it's important to have social skills. So you got to keep the child socially active in sports and band, or, you know what I mean? That stuff is expensive. I'm thinking about how much I pay just to maintain, just to have even the basics for the child. So I just don't understand how another parent can walk around knowing that they're not taking care of their child. What's your take, black man?
Quite frankly, it could be how they were raised. If they didn't have a sense
true.
of responsibility or weren't raised with a sense of responsibility, then that's not going to trickle down into their adult life. So
that's true. So you have to kind of see a parent or a father being a father in order to be a father. Because I know some people go either way. Some people, if they had a bad father or their father wasn't there, they weren't paying child support or financially taking care of that child, then they say, when I have a child, I'm going to be the best father. I'm going to take care of that child. Then you have some that follow in the same footsteps.
Some people can use that as reinforcement. I'm never going to be like my father,
right.
And some people can just say, I'm going to be just like my father.
So how about you? Because you have a dad.
Yep.
And your dad was a great dad.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the reasons why I don't have any open child support orders and I have 2 children out of wedlock is because all I knew is being responsible for my children because that's what I was learned. That's what was shown to me. So
right, and it's sad that I'm getting ready to thank you for taking care of your children, but I find that happens a lot. Do you find that like when women take care of their children?
Yeah, I don't accept thank you.
Right, exactly, and I'm glad you don't, because when women take care of their children, like a lot of times there's no thank you. But if I hear a man takes care of their child financially, like thank you for taking care of your child.
Yeah, I mean, and it's really just the culture and society, unfortunately, that we lived in. There's more people. The reason why there's even a child support system is because there are more people not taking care of their children than there are.
And that's
and
sad.
Roughly it's within the 40% range, generally. And it's sad that we even have to have this conversation.
It really is. And just like people say, oh, I babysat my child. I don't know how you do that either.
Yeah, that's
and people
thing.
say, I
look at people like they're
babysat.
crazy.
Right, I babysat my child. That is so funny. But so weareparents.org, again, Keino Stephenson, he founded the company. Is this something that you do full time? Is this something that you're passionate about? Because I'm all about working in your passion and living in your passion.
Absolutely. I do this full time. I primarily assist clients in Maryland, although I've assisted clients in 12 other states.
Okay.
But primarily, my expertise is in Maryland.
Do you know some of the states offhand? Because people can see this all over.
Florida, Las Vegas, North Carolina, South Carolina. Those states are on the tip of my tongue.
Okay, in Nevada. Okay, and Maryland.
Yeah, of course.
How about
Maryland.
Jersey?
Never assisted a client in Jersey. Just questions, but not actually.
Okay.
Worked on an actual case. And
okay, but you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
So, I gotta always rep for New Jersey.
Oh, absolutely.
So New Jersey, so tell the people how, like, what you would do, what kind of services you have if they called you. weareparents.org. If they went onto your website and they wanted Keino Stephenson to help them, what would the steps be? Because somebody might need you right now.
Well, they can actually go to the website, www.weareparents.org, and they can go to our services that we offer, and we offer child support assistance.
That's a tab on your website?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you go right to our services, and you can click on all the services we offer. We offer child support assistance. We offer assistance with providing you with the forms for joint custody, visitation, legal custody, and things of that nature. And one of the things that we really didn't get a chance to address, and I want to say that I like the fact that Maryland really has laws to address this, is alternative dispute resolution.
Okay, what is that?
A lot of times when there's a conflict between two parents, we just focus on, okay, cool. Like a lot of times, attorneys, for example, they don't mind having adversarial relationships because that's how they make their money. But one of the laws in Maryland is that if a case meets the criteria for mediation, then the court will issue an order for mediation.
And for the people that don't know, what is mediation?
And essentially, mediation is you're meeting with a third party who is going to help you resolve your dispute. And one of the great things about mediation, they don't advise you to do anything. Essentially what it is it's a facilitated conversation of two parents being able to walk through some of the differences and being able to determine what's in the best interest of their child mutually together without a judge making that determination for you.
So a mediator will be kind of facilitating.
Yeah, a court-approved mediator will facilitate a mediation.
Okay, and it's not in a courtroom. It's just maybe just
well, it can be held in the courthouse.
Oh, okay.
A judge will say, okay, you two, I'm not going to decide this. You two go to mediation right now.
Okay, and then
it actually happens in a courthouse, or it can happen in a private office as well.
I think that's good. So tell the people how they can connect with you. Tell them how they can reach you, all your social media platforms.
Absolutely. As I said, www.weareparents.org. You can give us a call at 800-852-2161. And you can reach us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well, at We Are Parents.
Okay, so are you taking new clients now?
Yep, absolutely. Look forward to being able to help people facilitate their co-parenting needs.
Okay, so if you're looking to try to get a new child support order?
New order, existing order, contempt, And like I said, we're not a law firm. We'll just walk you through the appropriate documents to file.
Okay, and a lot of times that's because you can do it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're going to help them, and I think that's great. That way, you don't prolong the process, because if you don't, like I said earlier, if you don't fill out the forms correctly, that can prolong your child support.
And a lot of times, a lot of non-custodial parents, they'll just keep on talking about the problem, but won't actually do anything about it.
Yeah, and I definitely see that. I have my little notes here. This is a good conversation, so I do want to thank you, Keino, for coming to Conversations. I really appreciate it. I'm sure you enlightened a lot of people, and you gave a lot of good information. So hopefully somebody will call you to assist. Is there you can consult them first and try to guide them in the right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So in closing, I just want to say, as we all know, children are a priceless gift. It's a priceless gift from God. However, to raise a child, you need emotional support. And let's be real, you need financial support. One parent can't always do it by themselves. It takes two to make a child, and it should take two to financially take care of a child. Many don't receive child support, and they should. In some cases, children suffer, and I think, as you said earlier, that's unfair. That's a selfish act on the parent. Loving your child is the best gift that you can give, but the gift of financial support gives greater opportunities and experiences for your child. What do you think about that?
That's how you breathe and survive.
Right.
Food, clothing, shelter.
That's right. So any final words? And I want to ask you, if you can look at your future right now, what does it look like?
My future in the next 3 to 5 years, I want to be able to serve clients in all 50 states.
Okay.
I want to have walk-in office hours in all 50 states, especially the metropolitan areas. And my goal is to connect at least 5,000 dads with being able to have an agreement to see their children.
Wow. And I think that's outstanding. I think that's a bright future. I'm sure you think that as well. I just want to say that it's very important to take care of your children. It's very important to foster a relationship, a healthy relationship with your child. If you're keeping your child away from a parent for no reason, I think that's a problem. People have certain reasons they do, and that's a personal choice. Again, I want to thank Keino Stephenson for coming to Conversations with Kendell and E. So would you come back one day if people have questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to hold you. You guys heard him. So I thank you so much for tuning in to Conversations. Until next time, God bless. And remember, you are a star, so don't let anyone dim your shine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.